In this lesson, we'll be converting BREP faces to forms. After completing this lesson, you'll be able to use Convert, modify a converted face, finish a form, and use modeling tools to replace geometry with a form. For this next lesson, we're going to start with a new untitled design. We're going to create a basic box, and we're going to convert a face to modify as a form. We've taken a brief look at this in our first lesson where we talked about the differences between a BREP and a form. But we want to start from scratch by creating a sketch, select a plane, in this case we're going to use the top plane, with a center point rectangle. We're going to set the size equal to 150 by 150. And then extrude this out using E to a distance of 100 millimeters. Next, we're going to use the Create Form button, and rather than creating a primitive, we're going to use the Utilities option to convert. This allows us to convert a T-spline to a BREP face to a T-spline, or a quad mesh to a T-spline. Note that the majority of mesh files that you work with if you save an STL will be triangular meshes and not able to be converted here. But if you are working with a quad mesh, you have the option to convert it. For us, we're going to be using BREP face to T-splines and select that option. Then we'll select the top face of our box and take a look at the preview on the screen. Note that with this example, we have a nice rectangular, or in this case a square, face that we can select. If you have a boundary that does not have a nice four-sided patch, then it will extend this out farther. For our example, we're going to use all the default settings of uniform with 4 faces and create that new body. Now we're going to make some adjustments. First, I'm going to hold down the Control key and select 4 faces. I'm going to use Modify Edit Form, and I'm going to hold down the Alt key on the keyboard and pull this up. This allows us to extrude a set of faces based on our selection. We're going to let go of the Alt key, then hold it down one more time, and pull this up one more time. After we let go of the Alt key, I'm going to change the transform mode to be scale, and I'm going to scale in the corner of the XY plane and taper this section in. The value that I've selected here is about 0.5. The number doesn't really matter, we're just taking a look at the process. Once we're done, we can select OK and rotate them all around to see what we've done so far. So we've taken the original face that we selected and we began modifying it. I'm going to make a few more changes. I'm going to double left click on this edge and note that it grabs the entire loop. With that loop selected, I'm going to select Modify Edit Form, and with my Scale tool, I'm going to pull this out and begin scaling it. Once we're out to about 1.25 or 1.3, let's go ahead and say OK. Now that we're done with this, we can select Finish Form and take a look at our Bodies folder. Note that we still have our original body, but we've created a new surface on the top. There are a few different ways that we can go about connecting these two together. We can use the Replace Face option. We can delete the top face of our box and stitch these together so that we can make a closed, sealed volume. Or we can use another tool called Boundary Fill. Boundary Fill will allow us to select that surface and the solid body, and then we can select the cells that we want to keep. Or we could use a Boundary Fill. Note that while we do have multiple options, they won't all work in every instance. The one that we're going to focus on here is we're going to start by hiding this body, navigating to our Surface tool, selecting this top face, and going to Modify and Delete. Then we want to show Body 2 and use the Stitch option to connect these two together. This is nice because we can add a tolerance amount. That way, if the edges have moved at all, we can account for that. We're going to say OK to create a new body, and now we have a single solid. From the Inspect dropdown, let's select Section Analysis, and we're going to grab the XZ plane. You might need to hold down the left mouse button because it's going to be inside of our solid body, and then we can say OK. Now taking a look at this, we've created a single solid body by using that converted face that we modified and stitching it to the rest of the solid. Again, there are multiple ways in which we can do this, and it's going to be based on the type of geometry that you have. But let's go ahead and look at one more example real quick. While we still have this on the screen, let's select Create Form, which creates a secondary form feature. We'll go to our utilities and select Convert. We're going to grab the top face, which is again a four-sided patch, and we're going to say OK. So note that because it is four-sided, it's done a pretty good job of matching those edges. I'm going to grab the top four faces. I'm going to use Edit Form. Change the transform mode to multi, hold down the Alt key, and pull this down and inward. Then I'm going to say OK, and finish the form. So note again, we have a solid body, and we have our updated surface. So in order to do this, let's give this a try and use the Replace Face option. So the source face, make sure that we turn off Tangent Chain. We select this face here. The target face is going to be the new surface that we created. So this is going to be our target face. And note that OK is not instantly popping up on the screen. The face couldn't be replaced because it wasn't able to extend the geometry out below it. When we've looked at this option before, we've had more prismatic geometry, where a feature like press pull could be used. So in this case, it's a perfect example where we need to come in, delete that upper face, and stitch them together. So again, it's important to note that we do have multiple options, and not every option will work in every case. But understanding which options you have and how you can apply them will help you pick the best tool for your specific geometry. Let's go ahead and save this file, and we're going to call this Form Practice. I urge you to carry on playing around with this by selecting other faces, converting them, and modifying its geometry. And once you're done with that, make sure that you do save your file before moving on.